Hadouken!
Welcome to First Impressions! Hey dudes, ThatDude Sunglasses here, and today I'm doing a first impressions on the first episode of Season 5 of Death in Paradise, which is my favourite British TV detective series. Well, it's technically also my favourite detective series of all time. This episode was broadcast last Thursday, and that date was, if I just count, it was the 7th, I believe. Watched it on, the 7th, and it was broadcast at 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock before the BBC News. So let's talk a little bit about it. This ain't gonna be that long, but I just kind of want to be talking about this because, well, since I'm going to be doing a first impressions on each episode of Death in Paradise. So these will probably be about 20 minutes long maximum, and they won't be kind of like my reviews or anything. They'll just be me talking about more about the characters, their relationships, how they develop, the story of that specific episode, my best bits, and that's it. If it was a review, which I may do one day, like a proper review, I'd be mentioning just more than that. But sometimes I may mention a little more. But anyway, let's talk about Death in Paradise, Season 5, Episode 1. So basically the story was that there were a team of 5 or 6, can't exactly remember, 5 or 6 crew members, and one of them stays up on the boat and gets killed. However, all of the other people, so they were on a boat trip to try and collect data for corals and reefs or something like that. And all of them, apart from the one person, were down under the water, and later on in the episode they say how they would like to that they would have seen if someone had gone up, and they didn't see that. So it was a bit of a hard case to solve for the team, St. Marie. So that was kind of the story, and that was a very basic overview of the story. What did I think of it? I thought it was a pretty unique narrative. I think that in Death in Paradise, from what I've seen, something like that hasn't really been explored before. Sure, there have been mysteries that seem like they're impossible to solve, and you don't know what happens. But this is the first one that I've seen that's kind of like this. And now, from here on out, I'm probably going to be talking about spoilers. So just telling you now, just give you a bit of warning, 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, spoilers from here. So, well, I think it's kind of a bit, especially later on in the episode, where he pieces things together, where Humphrey puts and pieces things together, which seem like the toy soldier. I think that kind of makes it seem, because all their evidence was a little toy soldier, when they started off at least, and that's not a lot really. But later on they've discovered that there were no fingerprints, So they were thinking, how could the soldier have got there? So, but later on in the end of the story, later on in the story, it gets more compelling because they find out more and more evidence, but it's still not helping them to find out who the suspect was. Like, you find out some really kind of, let me check the character's name, I forget them easily, but, just a sec. Yeah, sorry. So, what's the girl's name? I forgot. The blonde girl, the one who actually was the murderer. Yep. Find out that she was, wait, I'm just trying to get it. Find it, yes. She, the wife, I can't remember the names, it doesn't say here on Wikipedia either. The wife, the blonde wife, had an affair with the teacher and she got expelled. And you also find out that one of the men had an argument with the night before with the man who died about data and about how it would. They were arguing about how it would affect the results and their reputation. I believe this was that. And wait a second, yeah. So, and then you find out more about that, and then you find out some incredible things at the end. Especially at the end of the episode, here's something. The best thing about Death in Paradise, in my opinion, is where the detectives explain everything at the end. And to be honest, it is the thing that I really, really like about Death in Paradise. It kind of gives it a unique charm. Well, there are a few other things that give it a unique charm, like the fact they're on an island, they're in Saint Marie, and that it kind of makes the whole series overall and the whole premise a bit more exciting, I believe. But anyway, yeah, sorry. So when they were telling all the suspects who murdered, it kind of got really complicated. But it was probably the most complicated and convoluted one. I can't remember how to pronounce that word. Anyway, and convoluted. That's how you do it. Okay, convoluted. But that was a good thing. Especially, it went so far down that basically you find out that the murder was done because the wife had murdered him before the person who was killed. Before, yes, sorry, I found out the name quickly. Yeah, Dan Hagen, the one who died. I'm just gonna say Dan from now on. Yeah, so Dan. Sure, yeah, sorry. So yeah, he'd been murdered before when his wife was kissing him, yeah, and the ex-girlfriend, which was another one of the women, yeah, looked in and was actually using that as a signal to know whether she had done it. And then you find out that the ex-girlfriend had ruined the whole boat, which was the state it was found in at the start of the episode, while everyone else was getting their air tanks off, and then screamed to make it look like it was her who was seen. But then it goes so much further than that. Like, the ex-girlfriend was begging Dan Hagen, was said to be begging Dan Hagen on the phone one night to come back with her, but actually it was the wife. So, and that she was begging to come with them because obviously you found out from there on that they're lesbians, which I have no problem with. If you're a lesbian, that's fine. But they were lesbians and you found that out, and then later on you found out that the teacher that the wife had been having an affair with was a woman, and I was like, my friend was like, hell no, because my friend's kind of a bit religious, Well, he is religious, very religious. So he was like, hell no. And but I think it kind of was a little disturbing, but I didn't think that really took off of the quality of the video. Not the video, the the episode. And yeah, so that was the story. Now let's talk about the characters and how they've developed since we last seen them. So we still have the team that we were left with at the end of the last season, consisting of Humphrey and Florence as the two main detectives, and JP and Dwayne as the police officers. Because halfway through the series, series 4, JP joined the crew and Florence was upgraded. That's just what I'm going to say, to the detective, replacing Camille. And personally, I think they're probably the best combination. I think that Florence is a far more interesting lead detective role than Camille ever was, because even though I liked Camille, she kind of smiled every once in a while, but she kind of seemed a bit off and kind of not really bothered or interested, or like, oh, how stupid are you, when something happens. So, but I think Florence, she's kind of she doesn't smile all the time, but she's a bit quirky and kind of has a bit more of a personality than Camille, in my opinion. Also, Humphrey, I think he's a lot better detective than Richard was in series 1 and 2, because he's kind of funny. He's not exactly nerdy, but he's kind of a bit off when it comes to stuff like relationships and just thinking properly. But he's so quirky. Like, he shares the same character traits, I'd say, as Richard did, except he's kind of stupid and funny and not very serious, whereas Richard was very kind of serious, which I think kind of took away the tone of what the episodes before had been trying to do. So at the same time as being funny, they had a very serious, in my opinion, team, which I thought was a bit odd, because I don't think mixing in a serious team with a comedic background really works very well, especially in... Sorry guys, I just realised that I didn't have my blue snowball microphone plugged in, so from now on you'll hear a bit of better quality, I'd say, which is kind of sad, because it's really weird how that was just... I just didn't notice that. But anyway, so what was I saying? Yes, so I think that kind of the comedic and serious tone doesn't really work. But now with Dwayne kind of being the experienced officer and JP kind of being the beginner, unlike before when Dwayne and Fidel were kind of the same rank, it's kind of like Dwayne is trying to teach JP about being the best police officer and being the full package, as it says in this episode. And their chemistry works really, really well. Especially in this episode, we find out that JP doesn't like the water from an incident when he was a child, and Dwayne kind of mocks him for that, saying that that they live on an island completely surrounded by water, which I think is a fair statement. I think that's a very fair statement, because it is true. It is absolutely true that it would kind of be stupid to not be able to swim on an island completely surrounded by water. And then kind of Dwayne kind of mocks him throughout the time when they were locked in the container. But when it was quite a funny moment was when Dwayne was looking in the shelf to try and get the cocaine out in the container, and then JP was talking about how about Dwayne said that he basically Dwayne was saying about how you need to be the full package, and JP was kind of mocking him by saying he's the full package, which I think is a good comedic moment. You need comedic moments like that to kind of emphasize the relationships with the characters, which they have done here perfectly. So that's the characters, but how have they developed really in this series? Well, not that much actually. They kind of stayed the same since the end of the last series, because well, by that time they kind of got used to their roles and their positions, and because of that, I think that that's fine, that you don't have to add new things on, and overall you have to advance the characters, which you don't have to all the time. So that would kind of be like saying in Doctor Who series 2, the Doctor has to completely change in series 3, or in season I'm just thinking quickly what season it was, in season 12, in season 13, Tom Baker has to be completely different to how he was in season 11. It's kind of a bit stupid, and that wouldn't happen, especially, well, not in Doctor Who. Well, it did kind of happen in Doctor Who, because in series 2, the Doctor was kind of like funny and bouncy all the place, but then after that he was kind of a bit blander, a bit less interesting, and a bit less quirky and funny, which kind of took away some of my love for him, but he's still my favourite Doctor. But anyway, we're going off topic, so let's talk about some other things as well. Just a few other things. My favourite moment was probably what I said earlier when they were explaining what happened at the end, and who did the murder. I think that was definitely the best bit. It kind of interested me, and I was actually really happy, and I thought that was probably the best of the episode. So, anything else I'd like to say? Yes, we see that there was one advancement that I forgot to tell you about, and something, another fun. My second most favourite moment is when Florence is running across everywhere and jumping on the boats to get to the research graduate. I can't remember his name either. And that was funny. It was really funny, because it was meant to be serious, but but seeing like Dwayne, Humphrey, and JP's reactions, and then just seeing it kind of being dramatic mixed into that, and mixed into the background and the scenery, and then just her jumping over, it kind of seems kind of a bit hilarious, although probably not intentionally. I just think it's not because I think that Florence, not being sexist or anything, it's not because I think Florence is a woman, so she can't do that kind of stuff like a man can do, which is absolutely bullcrap, because they can do that, definitely, I know that. But anyway, it's just because of the background and how the scene has been constructed with their reactions, and it just kind of makes it seem so funny and so out of place that it's hilarious. So that's another best bit, but that's all I really have to say. Next week I'll be doing an episode 2 reaction. Hopefully it'll be coming out on either the Friday or the Saturday, which I think will be a bit more convenient, because I'm recording this on the Sunday. This is 3 days after it had been aired, and I had kind of forgotten everything. So if I record it on the Friday, I'll remember more stuff, and hopefully it'll be a bit more of an interesting commentary. This one's been a bit boring, I'd say. And also the next one probably won't be as long, because I'm not talking about how the characters have advanced. I'll probably just be talking about the story, and probably maybe my best bits, and maybe that's just it, and maybe explaining why I did or didn't like the episode overall. Final thoughts on this one. I did like this episode. In fact, I loved it. I think it was a really good episode. Still not my favourite ever. I think one of my favourites may have been episode 5 of season 4, or episode 1 of season 3. Or maybe another one. I can't remember the one where they went on an airport. Yeah. But they're probably my favourite ones. But this one, it's not one of my favourites. But it is a very good episode, and I think it's a good starter off to season 5. I can't believe we're already there. But anyway, thanks very much for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. You probably didn't. It's probably because it's boring and kind of rubbish. But if you did, then please give me a like. You don't have to if you don't want to. But if you want to show support, then you can do that. And well, thanks very much for watching, guys, and peace the hell out, and I will see you some other time. You've been watching First Impressions!